She was the last prisoner processed that rotation cycle. Her arrival wasn't met with caution or protocol. Just laughter. A woman, human, alone. Her wrists were shackled, posture forced low by the artificial gravity bands locked around her waist. 7 alien guards accompanied her down the corridor, all of them armed, all of them amused. They called her Primitive, Slow Flesh, Zoo Exhibit. Her designation was printed in bold digits across her chest, 7777. They thought it was ironic. They thought her silence was submission. The facility was orbiting a dead rock in Quadrant 9. No sun, no sky, just rusted steel and void. Designed for containment of war criminals, insurgents, and broken remnants of old rebellions. The ones they didn't want to execute but wanted forgotten. The human woman was tossed into the most secure cell in the structure. High-frequency energy bars. Adaptive floor plating. Biometric auto-sedation. Every system was built with the assumption she would eventually break, because everything does. That's what they believed. She said nothing as the cell sealed. Cameras activated, thermal scans adjusted. Alien analysts watched from above, bored already. She didn't scream. She didn't panic. She stood for 6 hours straight, unblinking, just staring at the far wall. Her heartbeat never spiked. No psychological response. One of the watching officers joked that she might be dead inside. The others laughed and placed bets on when she'd collapse. The interrogations began. The first session lasted 12 minutes. The alien operative left in frustration, reporting she had refused to answer a single question. The second session involved neural pulses and direct memory probes. They got fragments of a battlefield, charred cities, falling carriers, orbital firestorms. They stopped the extraction when her mind began feeding back static that disrupted their instruments. No scream. No struggle. Just resistance. When they resumed, her memories had all vanished, buried deeper than their tech could reach. They escalated. Subjected her to gravity intensification trials. She didn't cry out. Electromuscular strain inductions. She didn't twitch. Sonic frequency disruptions designed to crack bones in the inner ear. She bled. She didn't fall. They started calling her the statue. Prisoner 7777 became a joke. A challenge. A punching bag for the new recruits who wanted to prove their strength on someone who wouldn't fight back. She was kicked, starved, mocked. They called it tradition. She endured it all. What they didn't understand was that silence, for humans, isn't submission. It's warning. They assumed she was the remnant of a failed species. The last relic from the human resistance that the Empire had shattered in the final solar campaign. Earth was gone, they said. Nothing left but scorched continents and floating wreckage. They assumed she'd been lucky to survive. A stray fighter pilot captured before the orbital batteries fell silent. What they never considered was that she had allowed herself to be captured. Because it was part of a plan. Because even with Earth burning, she had a mission. She never looked at them with fear. She observed. She counted their footsteps. She memorized their sequences. The vibrations in the floor told her where the conduits ran. She flexed her fingers against the reinforced wall, tested its resonance, tracked the timing of each shift in pressure. They called her fragile. What they didn't realize was that she was waiting for a fracture point. They thought her muscles were ornamental. They didn't realize she had trained in gravity 3 times higher than their station's setting. They didn't know what it meant to be built under Earth's weight. Her bones were denser than their body armor. Her tendons were like coiled carbon cables. Every day she moved in place, slow, subtle, stretching muscles against resistance. Every motion calculated. Every moment invested. 3 weeks into captivity, a new squad arrived. Recruits from the border front. Fresh off suppression campaigns. Young. Arrogant. One of them walked into her cell without authorization, just to impress his unit. He slapped her. She didn't move. He shoved her against the wall and called her a beast in a cage. Still, no reaction. He spat at her and laughed. The entire surveillance deck laughed with him. He told her she should bark if she wanted to be fed. She didn't bark. She smiled. They didn't understand what that smile meant. The next cycle, during a system update, a 2-second power fluctuation occurred. Minor. Unnoticed by the guards. But in those 2 seconds, her gravity cuffs glitched. And she moved. Just once. Pressed her palms into the floor and surged upward. The strain detectors didn't register the shift in time. When the cuffs re-engaged, her posture had changed. Subtly. She was now facing the cell door. In the control room, one analyst noticed the change. He paused. Rewound the footage. Her eyes were now focused directly on the lens. That was new. He hesitated before making a report. When the officer in charge dismissed him, he simply deleted the clip. Said it was a glitch. The next cycle, they resumed feeding. Standard nutrient slop, cold and gelatinous. This time, she caught the tray before it hit the floor. The camera didn't catch how. The recording skipped. The tray hovered in her hands. She set it down, untouched. That night, 2 guards went missing. Search parties swept the cell block. No alarms. No breach detected. No signs of struggle. Just an empty corridor and 2 deactivated stunners dropped on the floor. Command issued a silence protocol. No one wanted word spreading that something might be wrong. 3 hours later, all 8 surveillance cameras in her wing went dark for 10 seconds. When they came back on, she was standing in the exact same spot, eyes closed, hands folded. But now, there were boot prints on the ceiling. Burn marks near the doorframe. And something carved into the wall with a finger. Not broken. Not done. That's when the panic began. Quiet, buried beneath protocol. But real. They increased patrols. Triple shift. Auto-target drones deployed. Still, she didn't move. For 3 days, she stood still. Then, on the 4th cycle, during a full security inspection, she acted. The command deck was observing live. 100 eyes across multiple systems watched as the door of her cell shook, then buckled. The energy seal flickered. Then it exploded outward. The reinforced steel door, designed to withstand plasma barrages, twisted and ripped from its hinges. She was holding it above her head like it weighed nothing. Her expression was calm. Her arms were tensed, muscles flexed like hydraulic pistons. Sparks danced around her silhouette. The guards outside didn't have time to react. She stepped forward, hurling the door like a battering ram. It crushed the first soldier against the corridor wall. The second fell to a boot heel strike that shattered his helmet. The third raised his weapon, only for it to be torn from his grip and turned against him. 1 shot. Then silence. The surveillance room erupted in alarms. Officers shouted for containment teams. The AI began rerouting units from every quadrant. Drone swarms deployed. Turrets activated. The prison's lockdown was engaged, but none of it mattered. She didn't hesitate. She advanced through the corridor like a force of nature. 1 step at a time. Each step marked by another fallen soldier, another shattered protocol. No excessive brutality. Just efficient elimination. One by one, the prison's elite began to understand the truth. This was not a rogue detainee. This was a combatant. In the upper deck, command watched the disaster unfold with disbelief. Their protocols were shredded. The AI analyzing the prisoner's movements classified her threat level as post-mortal, an error code designed to trigger when no statistical model could define the danger. They reset the system. The result returned the same. No simulation could offer a containment scenario above a 1% survival rate for the station. They tried to talk her down. Loudspeakers offered surrender terms. A high-value extraction pod. Amnesty. Freedom in another quadrant. She didn't respond. Not because she didn't understand, but because she didn't care. Their words had no value. Their promises meant nothing. She had seen what the Empire did with agreements. They tried gas. The ventilation system pumped in paralytic mist, engineered for large-bodied species. She held her breath, climbed into the ductwork, tore out the filtration pump, and flooded the lower decks with the very toxin intended for her. 8 squads collapsed before the AI sealed the airflow. She emerged from the upper vents with a makeshift rebreather, pulling armor off the unconscious and equipping herself mid-stride. She reached the weapons locker. Not to arm herself, but to destroy it. Grenades down the shaft. She wasn't going to let the others resist. She didn't want chaos. She wanted dominance. No survivors, no uprising, just the message, etched in steel, painted in fear. The Empire had failed to crush humanity, and now it would remember what made them dangerous. She moved like a memory of war. The kind of memory that never heals. She wasn't fast because of augmentation. She was fast because she trained for decades to outmatch enemies that underestimated her. She didn't overpower them with brute strength, but with a level of ferocity calculated into every breath, every twitch, every heartbeat. They assumed her silence meant weakness. It had been calculation. Now she didn't need silence. Her presence screamed louder than any words. In the lower decks, alien prisoners began hearing rumors. Some said a new species had broken containment. Others said a demon was loosed. But the few who caught a glimpse, those who hid behind broken doors and crawled through maintenance hatches, saw the truth. It wasn't a monster. It was a woman, and she moved with a purpose. She wasn't escaping. She was erasing the Empire's mistake. Among the forgotten were a few surviving humans, buried deep in unregistered cells. Her path took her past one of them. He stared through the glass, weak, malnourished, eyes widened in disbelief. He had thought the war was lost. Thought Earth was nothing more than a forgotten planet under alien ash. When she tore the door from his cell, he collapsed at her feet. She didn't offer comfort. She handed him a weapon. There were no words. Just a look that said, "Stand up or stay dead." 3 more joined. None asked questions. They followed. No plans. No ranks. Just momentum behind the one who walked through walls. They advanced behind her like shadows drawn to fire. The more they followed, the more the station faltered. The AI began pulling units from non-essential tasks. Drones stacked in formation. Automated turrets recalibrated to track only her. Even the station's core reactor defenses were activated, something reserved for full-scale rebellion. She didn't flinch. Each defense was just another puzzle, another system to exploit. She cracked doors with redirected power surges, overloaded conduits to create cover. Her hands were burnt, her suit scorched, her face cut, but she kept moving. Pain wasn't a limitation. It was familiar. It told her she was still in control. The command staff evacuated. Not because protocol required it, but because they were afraid. They didn't admit it. They said it was tactical repositioning. But they left everything behind. Access codes, override protocols, defense controls. All abandoned in a desperate bid to escape something they still didn't understand. She found the Central Operations Core. Dozens of guards surrounded it. A final defensive ring. Plasma rifles. Shields. Combat mech. She didn't hesitate. She moved straight into their fire. The first few bolts hit. Her shoulder burned. She dropped to one knee. The guards advanced. And that's when she let go. Not control. Not precision. She let go of the restraint. The survival instinct to preserve her body. She surged forward, using her own pain to fuel the next strike. She caught a mech arm mid-swing, tore it free, and crushed the pilot's canopy with it. Sparks and flame lit the hall. Another rifle struck her chest. She ripped the weapon from its source, twisted it backward, and fired it into the enemy's formation. 2 of her followers fell. The others pushed forward. Not because she ordered them to. Because momentum became survival. Their movement was her movement. She was no longer human in their eyes. She was inevitability. The core doors collapsed inward. The last squad tried to make a stand. They fell in seconds. The console stood untouched. Gleaming. Glowing. Packed with controls that could send 1,000 signals across the Empire. She didn't hesitate. She didn't send warnings. No speeches. No threats. She picked up the same door she had ripped from her cell and smashed it into the console. The shockwave surged across the station. Systems collapsed. AI screamed errors. Lights flickered. Transmissions halted. Emergency beacons overloaded. She turned away as the core burned. Her message wasn't a broadcast. It was written in the station's silence. She moved toward the escape hangar. Bodies littered the path. Not one human among them. She walked with blood drying on her fists, ash on her boots, and a ship code blinking ahead. The Empire had designed that hangar for dignitaries and warlords. She activated it with her prisoner ID. The bay doors opened. The stars waited beyond. She stepped onto the platform and turned to the camera feed still active. One last line of communication. She looked straight into it. You thought Earth was broken. You forgot we break back. Then she left. The transmission looped across galactic networks before the Empire could contain it. Dozens of outposts intercepted it. Black Site officers replayed it in silence. Commanders reviewed the footage of her escape, frame by frame, trying to calculate how it happened. But there were no calculations. No algorithms. No battle plan. There was only her. And now she was gone. The station remained. A silent monument. Burned-out corridors. Dead systems. Soldiers who never stood a chance. A broken cell with its number scorched into the floor. 7,777. They couldn't explain it. Couldn't rationalize it. Couldn't admit it. But in the classified logs of the Empire's internal archive, they updated her file. Status: unknown. Threat level: human class extinction trigger. Warning: do not detain. Across the stars, whispers began. Of a woman who tore through a prison meant for gods. Of a species the galaxy thought extinct, but who still walked among them. The kind that didn't need fleets or diplomacy. Just will. The Empire had mocked her. Called her broken. Weak. Primitive. Now she was gone, and they were afraid. Because if there was one, there would be more. And the galaxy wasn't ready for the return of humanity.